Okay, so we'll get underway here. Hi, everyone. I am excited to be here with you today. My name is Kasper, and I'm the owner of Monarch Staffing. And I am excited to share with you one of my favorite topics, leading with courage. And Monarch is an HR consulting, training, and staffing firm in the Philadelphia region. I've close to almost 25 years in the staffing business, and Monarch has placed close to 10,000 people in jobs over the past 18 years and have serviced just under 900 employers. I'm excited to be here with you today and joined with Lorraine Ranalli, who is our training partner. Lorraine is a radio personality and speaker and trainer, and she is the author of Impact, Deliver Effective, Meaningful, and Memorable Presentations. Gravy Wars, South Philadelphia Feuds and Attitudes, and La Familia. She has helped countless professionals hone and promote their personal brand and enhance their communication skills. So I'm going to turn it over to Lorraine, and we're excited to have you here with us today. Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Laura. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for taking some time out of your day to join us as we talk about leading with courage. And we're going to, let me tell you a little bit about what to expect today. So first, know that this is being recorded, so we're going to make it available later on YouTube. Always a great idea when you join these things to take some notes, however you do that electronically or hand and paper. We will have a little bit of interactive exercises toward the end of this, have some gift cards to give away. And we do ask that you stay muted so that there's no interference with noise and whatnot. Laura, am I forgetting any of the other housekeeping?
Just in the chat as we go through, maybe to utilize the chat button. I think we're good.
We will. We'll ask you to utilize chat. That's good. So what you can expect from this brief seminar, basically the purpose is to bolster courageous leaders by interpreting VUCA and introducing tools to navigate in a VUCA environment and establishing a mindset that puts us on a trajectory to VUCA 2.0. We chose VUCA because we are actually in a VUCA environment right now. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. First, let me explain what VUCA is, okay? It's an acronym, as you can see. It was coined by the U.S. War College in 1998, and it stands for Volatile, Uncertain, Complex, and Ambiguous, and it's used to describe the world. But 11 years after the War College developed it, Bob Johansen of the Institute for the Future applied the term to business in response to the financial collapse that I'm sure most of us can remember. Sometimes I think it's important to understand what something is by understanding what it is not. VUCA is not an excuse for leaders to avoid strategizing, planning, or executing. Those are the things that we do normally in our organizations as leaders. So in this workshop, Leading with Courage will help us navigate this VUCA environment, volatile into vision, uncertainty into understanding, complexity to clarity, ambiguity into agility. So when we identify those things that comprise VUCA 1.0, right, we can employ the skills necessary to address these challenges and use them to our advantage, getting us to that 2.0 that I mentioned, the vision, understanding, clarity, and agility.
Right, because right now we are all in it with this pandemic. So having, knowing what it is and having some stepping stools and tools and techniques to be able to get through this and to help us as leaders going forward, using the vision to combat the volatility and understanding to help with the uncertainty that all the businesses and employees and employers are faced with in today's world, using clarity to understand and help with the complexity. We don't know, everything is complex. There's a lot of moving parts to the things that we're in right now, and using your agility to help really kind of help you with the unknown. These are times where things are just unknown and we're not sure, but being agile and flexible can really help to mitigate the risk with the ambiguity. So Lorraine is going to take us through these steps to help us be courageous leaders.
Well, and it's interesting, in this environment, there's so much coming at us at one time, but let's look at something that we might all be familiar with, a typical snafu, if you will, right? Or what we call an epic fail. We can come up with a number of reasons for this epic fail, but what are some ways that we can turn this mistake into a valuable lesson that uplifts and inspires the team rather than discourages them? So if you would, just type your answers in the chat box. I'll give you a second to do that. Because we've all experienced these types of big mistakes in a company, right? And it's just one mistake. And sometimes it can be very demoralizing and it can have a negative chain reaction. So we want to look at, as a leader, you see this mistake, how do you navigate turning it into something positive, a good lesson. So I'm looking at the chat right now. Happy Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Great to be here with all of you as well, Laura. I think that one of the things that first comes to my mind is you don't want to hide a mistake. You want to own a mistake. And as a leader, you might be the one to say that, even if it wasn't your fault. Instead of like, who did this and why did you do that? And we've all, maybe we haven't, but I know I've experienced quote unquote leaders who have acted in that way. Who made this mistake? Who made that typo? Instead say, hey, you know what, guys, this was a mistake. What could we have done? Bring everybody in and maybe take responsibility as a leader. I'm sorry that maybe we didn't communicate clearly about the location of this camera, or whatever came first or second, the sign. I'm guessing it's an exit sign or something. Okay, yeah, just Paul, thanks. He says, this is an example of how not to do something. Show us how to think through something before going into action. Get people involved. Pretty much what I was saying as well. Change your view, involve your team to fix. Exactly. Involve everybody. Hey, this is a mistake. Let's own it. Let's fix it. How can we do this together? Encouraging that kind of teamwork. So there's countless ways that you can take this, and even as a leader, things like this happen, and they tend to make us sometimes think, oh my gosh, the time and effort and the resources that were wasted. Don't focus on the negative. Yeah, focus on the positive and turn it into something good. Exactly. Flexibility, adaptability, which we're going to talk a lot about. Not having a camera can be harmful as well. All right, so let's move on to courage. Do you have the courage to recognize others' success, to make mistakes, to own your mistakes, and to learn from your mistakes? And that's what's important when we talk about epic fails. But, it's important to understand that individually, VUCA challenges are significant, but together they can be overwhelming. So that was one example. We're in an environment, as Laura mentioned earlier, where everything's coming at us at one time right now with this virus and the subsequent shutdown and whatnot. I mentioned Bob Johansen and his book earlier, and we're going to talk about some of the things he recommends. VUCA may not pose the same threat to all leaders, businesses, or industries, but preparing for it will benefit all leaders, all businesses, and all industries.
Will definitely be better second time around, but hopefully there's not another one. Right. There could be something else, and that's why we have to prepare. Yeah.
And it's so true. And even in this environment, some businesses are soaring. They're busier than ever, while others are floundering and their hands are tied. What can they do? So according to Bob Johansen, the results of a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous company culture can be devastating. I would add that the negative impacts creep into an organization like a stealth virus, just like what we're experiencing, and the results of which will include destabilizing people, making them very anxious, sapping motivation and innovation, thwarting career moves. Some people will be a little bit afraid to move up, or may not, recognize a chance to move on. Make constant training and reshaping necessary. That's so important. It could exhaust time and effort and increase likelihood of bad decisions. Some other negative effects that this kind of environment could have: paralyzing decision-making processes, jeopardizing long-term projects and developments, overwhelm individuals, departments, organizations, negatively impact company culture, and create internal silos. These are all the things as a leader, as an organization, we want to avoid, right?
Yes, definitely.
So, and what's important to remember that in a time of, great turmoil like this, there's a lot of innovation that does happen, but there's also a lot of things that get stifled, and that's what we want to avoid. So traditionally, leaders are taught to anticipate change, identify opportunities, create strategic plans, motivate and direct people, manage risks, solve problems, make effective decisions, all of which can be developed on the job. But what we find is that traditionally leaders aren't always prepared for a VUCA environment. And in that, it's imperative that leadership development is more comprehensive, that benefits equally from internal structure as well as outside influencers. So successfully operating within a VUCA environment requires objective self-awareness and heightened communication and collaboration skills. We can never emphasize that enough. So we're going to talk.
Knowing yourself is important, because knowing yourself, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and having some vulnerability really puts your authentic self forward as a leader, and it's important for your team. Mhm.
Absolutely. So VUCA in business requires leaders to first understand how to lead themselves. Are you
Mhm.
working on yourself first? Um, and applying the 4 elements of 2.0, the vision, understanding, the clarity, and agility to
Mhm.
yourself prior to attempting to exact them on the staff or on your
Mhm.
organization.
For
The
sure.
goal is to identify your strengths and your challenges. So now let's look at how we can apply these VUCA 2.0, if you will. First, the vision, okay? Take the volatile situation and remember your vision. What does
Mhm.
that look like? You have a vision. Acknowledge your strengths and how those strengths will get you to your goal amid constant turbulence. Allow for flexibility as your strategy will constantly change due to uncontrollable outside influences
Right.
and your newly adopted platform for collaboration. Laura always says,
Mhm.
begin with the end in mind.
Mhm.
And that's part of what your vision is, right?
Mhm. Absolutely. Yep. That's what you
We,
want to do.
we want to
Know
take
where
the
you're going.
uncertainty and have some understanding. So at your own peril, listen only to information and opinions that reinforce your beliefs. To operate successfully in a VUCA environment, you must consider a broader
Everyone.
spectrum of
Mhm.
viewpoints and sources. Most importantly, engage your frontline employees and customers. Spend time in the marketplace. Employ competitive intelligence, the action of defining, gathering, analyzing, and distributing intelligence about products, about customers, competitors, and any aspect of the environment needed to support your strategic decision. Constantly and objectively review and evaluate your performance. This is really tough for organizations, especially larger ones. Identifying what you did well and what you can do differently and doing it honestly so that you are making the necessary progression in a positive manner. Are all the wheels of your organization moving in the same direction? You
Mhm.
regularly need to conduct those exercises to find out. I think Jim Collins, good to great.
Great. Yep.
Do we have the right people in the right
Good
seats
boss.
on the bus, right? You
Going
want
in
to,
the right direction.
yes, going in the right direction. I forgot that part. So there's a balance between what you can control and what matters most. Hover over the intersection of both rather than wasting time, energy, and resources trying to impact low priority items or those outside your sphere of influence. So if you see the 2 little circles on the screen there, you want to hover in that kind of brown area, gray area. You want to be able to control what you can control. When caught up in the minutia of our daily
Right.
activity, it's easy to assume that others know what we're doing. And especially
Right.
now when we're working from home, to go about our busyness and think, oh, everybody knows I'm working on A, B, or C.
Right. You can't
But
overly communicate today's
yeah,
world. We're all
that's
working
true.
virtual environments, and you have to communicate more than you ever wanted to before. And you can only control the things that are in your ability to control. And sometimes you just got to let go of the other things. You can't control everything. That's for sure. My husband tells me that all the time.
Unless your work group conducts
Yep.
regular updates and
Yeah.
broadcasts those updates to the entire organization, it's likely others aren't aware of what's going on. They're
Right.
maybe not in the know, if you will.
Right. And there's
And
a
then
lot
what?
of platforms too, Lorraine, now that you can use to help
Mhm.
with the teams and put teams together. You mentioned last week, we were going through this, you mentioned Slack, right? So
Slack
that's
is
a new,
great.
something new that Monarch just adopted, and we love it. So it's actually increasing our collaboration skills and working with our teams more often than before. So that's really, really great. So there's a lot of ways and a lot of platforms that you can use now to collaborate with teams as well.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with Slack, it's kind of like an instant messaging,
Right.
but
Yeah. Like an
on
IM.
steroids.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's great.
because you can save and see all the different conversations and pick them
Yeah.
up later on. They don't
Great.
disappear. It's
Mhm.
nice. But the thing to remember that is if you're not communicating properly on a regular basis and everybody's not in the loop, then it's likely that others will fill in the blank. They'll make
Right.
assumptions, and those can be really devastating, because all of our assumptions come from our own frame of reference.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of negativity that goes on there, just as human nature. That's
Yes.
the nature of the beast, if you will. So what that could lead to is gossip, and take that whole company culture you're trying to establish and bring it down. So we want to avoid that, and
Mhm.
constant communication and clarity is helpful. Adopt a servant leadership style to get to set the tone for collaboration in your organization. Collaboration and communication kind of go together. If you tend to be insecure, and again, we talked about self-awareness as a leader, if you tend to lead from a place of insecurity, that's fine, recognize it, but do something about it. This could be a bit of a challenge But it's even more important then that you take that challenge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Insecurity lends to autocracy, and it will take courage to make change and adopt a new style going forward. So we want to get over any fear of failure. I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to pause for 30 seconds after I ask this question because I really want you to think about it, maybe jot down some notes. If success was guaranteed for you, your organization, in life, whatever success looks like for you, if it was guaranteed, what would you do? Big failures mean that we have big courage. And what we're going to do is ask you to embrace your failures. Make a list of your failures. You can do this on your own. Just think about this for later, maybe jot down some notes, but make a list of what you think are your failures in life, and then see how impressive they are or they've been compared to your successes. You'll see that there was definitely some learning there. There was definitely some coaching going on there. Down to the smallest detail of their maneuvers, athletes, professional athletes especially, spend a great deal of time visualizing success. We can do the same thing in business, right? Athletes train their minds to be courageous and push through fear. So we're not saying, oh, be fearless. I mean, that's nice, but we all have fear to some degree. We're saying recognize it, feel the fear, and push through it. Do it anyway. That's the title of the book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. The ability to say no with empathy is another thing that you can do to exercise your courage muscle. You want to be able to say no, but you want to do it with empathy, and you want to do it with certitude so that you don't look wishy-washy. And it's possible to unapologetically be yourself. Laura mentioned earlier about authenticity. While being self-aware and showing restraint and empathy, you can still be authentic. And that's going to build trust, and it's going to show that you are a courageous leader, and it's going to bring more people into the fold, which is what you want.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now we're going to talk about agility. Let's take the ambiguous, let's be agile and see how good we are at it. So this is a little interaction. We have 2 questions, brain teasers for you. Arrange these words in a meaningful sequence. And if you will, type your answer. You don't have to type out the words, just the numbers in the order you think they should be. And type it in the chat. The first person that gets it right gets what, Laura?
$25 Amazon gift card ready to be mailed out. Ready. Yeah, and at the last one, if you can't see it, some of the screens are cut off. The last number 5 is the word introduction, right, Lorraine?
Yeah, so we have presentation, recommendation, arrival, discussion, introduction.
All right, so you want to write down the order of which this would be. 1, 2, 3, 4, however you want to set it up. And give it a few minutes.
Just a little exercise in mental agility.
Get your brain going. All
Which
right, who's in the chat? Who's in the chat? Let's see. Who's doing it? Let's see.
Everybody's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
3, 5, 1, 2, 4. No, I'm sorry, Paul. Close, but no stogie. And you can guess again.
All right, come on. You can't tell me you don't shop on Amazon. Oh, we got a few. We got a few. Okay.
So Victoria is the first one to answer correctly.
Okay, Victoria.
I'm sorry, everybody else after her. You did well.
Yeah, it's Victoria. Privately, this is Laura. Send me your full name and address, and I'll send this. I'll put this in the mail to you today. Your gift certificate.
So, and I guess this could be a little subjective, but you arrive, right? That's number 3. You have an introduction, 5. The presentation right in the center there, number 1, a discussion followed by a recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And we will have a little discussion at the end of this. So another question, another $25 gift card to Amazon. Yep. I love this. A is between B and C.
This one
B
really
is
made me
between
think.
A and D. Therefore, which of the following is correct? And you can just put your number in there, the chat box. First one gets the gift card. KK, no. Okay, who said 3? Jen Franzen. Jen is the first to respond. I'll tell you, I actually had to write this out, like make lines.
Did Jen get it? Okay, Jen.
Jen got it. So Jen, if you All right. Make sure we get your address,
I
Jen.
have it. Good.
The answer A is between B and C. B is between A and D. Therefore, D is closer to B than D is to C. You'll literally have to write that out. I do.
Yes, I had to write it out too, Lorraine.
So just a little fun. I hope you had fun with that. We like to get everybody involved and give away stuff. I love this slide. If you look especially to the left, the leadership agility.
Yeah.
Some good stuff there. Like an NBA star, VUCA leaders are able to cut and change. I like using that analogy on a dime while holding on to their original vision and goal. And remember all the other things that you have to do as a leader, but now we're doing it in a VUCA environment. A VUCA organization is one where all stakeholders have a shared vision. To get there, the leader will have to transform the workforce to leverage employee strengths. Workforce transformation isn't a one-time thing. And as you know, if you've led any part of an organization or entire organization, you constantly have to look at, is everybody where they need to be? And they may be at the time, but that could change later on. That's the agility that we're talking about. Professional development, upskilling are always necessary. And to achieve VUCA preparedness, HR departments have to focus heavily on cognitive and EQ training. HR will also want to reorder hiring priorities and onboarding programs. So I'm not going to go through all the bullets there, but this will be available to you on YouTube. So one of your little assignments as we get close to wrapping up, we still have some time left, is to go onto YouTube and check out Brene Brown's Power of Vulnerability. I want to talk about why this is so important in this VUCA leadership, this leading with courage. It's about 20 minutes, which is why we didn't add the whole video onto here. But corporate culture is largely influenced by organizations' leaders, right? Culture cannot be dictated. It materializes through interactions, perceptions, openness, and trust. It's the chemistry among us and between us that is influenced by our behavior. When leaders are conscious of and can manage their behavior, they will affect a culture of collaboration and agility, which is exactly what we want for this VUCA 2.0. So just to give you a quick summary of what Brene Brown talks about, she's really huge, if you know anything about Brene Brown, huge on embracing vulnerability. What does that look like? She unpacks the source of it. She'll encourage us to embrace it and avoid trying to mask it by being transparent, loving, practicing gratitude, knowing you are enough. I'll tell you that practicing gratitude, many speakers, motivational speakers, business leaders talk about how important it is. I actually downloaded at the recommendation of somebody a couple of months ago, a gratitude app. And you can set it with the reminders every day. It gives you a nice little inspiration, a quote or some sort. And I do at night, before I go to bed, I have to type 3 things that I'm grateful for in that day.
Yeah,
it's really good because it gets you before you go to bed. It weighs on your subconscious. Yes. And instead of saying, oh, I beat myself up, I could have done this, I could have done that. You really can you focus on what went well, which will attract more of that.
The whole law of attraction.
Yep, law of attraction.
Yep.
And I mentioned there talking about doing that before I go to bed and thinking only about the positive. That visualization is, if I didn't hit it hard enough earlier, is very important. We talk about professional athletes and they practice, visualizing to make sure that things go right. At the end of the day, one of the things you could do, and we'll talk about, well, we'll get into it right now actually, is looking for the silver lining. What went well today? And focusing on that, okay, what could have gone differently and how could I have made that go better, So this is where we say, try it. This is your assignment as a result of our little time together today. Trying it is easy, but saying it is easy, but actually doing it requires a daily effort to adjust our outlook and our attitudes.
Yeah.
So you'll need to practice looking for silver linings. And one thing I always say is that the glass is neither half full nor half empty. It's always full. It's either full with air, liquid, or a combination of both. And your job is to figure out, what is in the glass and how am I going to work with it? Define the why of your organization. Define your personal why. Why do you do what you do? Be aware of the true superstars in your organization. Always make sure, whoever's in your network, that, you're giving them recognition. Recognition is the best form of best reward, showing appreciation that you could give anybody. And being realistic. Don't try to impact every aspect of your business. of your organization, only that which lies at the intersection of control and importance.
Yeah, I like that part of it.
So my challenge to you is each night when you go to bed, lie down, visualize, okay, what did I do today? What interactions were really super? What could have been a little better? And then visualize, how are you going to make them better? That will seep into your subconscious. That law of attraction is real. And we do this so that we're prepared for that VUCA environment. It remains to be seen how we come out of this whole pandemic.
Right. Definitely.
It remains to be seen, and it could be 5 years from now that we'll see a business that started and soared within record time. We're also going to see many businesses that failed. It's very unfortunate. I'm sure each of you have stories about how you're applying or reapplying and restructuring your business model or whatever to adapt to what we're going through now. And I guess, what we need to be thinking of is, can we do this for the next time or the next time? Hopefully it won't be this, but who knows what it'll be? We just don't know. Laura, do you have an example you want to share?
Yeah, a couple things. Just, I'm personally taking, now's a great time to take some professional development classes. You can take classes on Harvard for free, but I'm taking a personal coaching class. And, sometimes things just do go wrong. I mean, I had a situation where I was on a Zoom call and I didn't realize that my laptop was not plugged in, and all of a sudden 15 minutes left in the call, my whole laptop went crazy and just shut down. So I was scrambling to find my other laptop, literally text the coach on the call and said, I don't have my cord. I'm sorry, I might not be able to finish the call. And here, I could have just literally picked up my phone and continued the Zoom call on my phone, but I wasn't thinking in that way. So I am trying to get better at that. So, that was one of my reflections. And then it happened a week later, and immediately I picked up my iPad and then I had the Zoom call. But I am reading a great book about this whole VUCA that I wanted to share with everyone. It's Mark Devine's book, and it's called The Way of the Seal, S-E-A-L. And in fact, one of my employees, Nick, picked it up for me at a seminar that he was at, and it's a fabulous book, and it really talks about being prepared and learning to be prepared. So obviously I haven't finished the book yet because I wasn't prepared that time around, but I am learning from my mistakes and I'm getting better. So, being vulnerable, is part of that and putting that out there. But I really agree with the whole vision. I don't know if some of you maybe even have read the Jim Carrey story where he wrote himself a check. I think it was either $1 million or for $5 million, and every day he put it on his a mirror in his bathroom, and he looked at it, and then 5 years later he wound up cashing that check to himself. So, I think that's important to have the visualization, and I have a gratitude jar next to me that at the end of the day I write down things that I'm thankful for. But I love the app, Lorraine, so thank you for sharing that. I think that's great. And understanding, why we're here is, really important. And, we're here to help and to give back and to make this place a better place to be and to help employers and employees along the way. So we'll open it up for any Q&A that you might have that maybe we can give you some insights in.
Who has the first question about our...
We can, we'll unmute you if you want to chat or put it in the chat.
If you want to put it in the chat, whichever, yeah. And also, I just want to point out one thing I did forget in our housekeeping earlier on is that we will send you a very brief 5-question survey when we're through, and we do kindly ask you to complete it. It really helps us when we do these in the future. I think some of you are return customers, if you will, to our seminar, so I appreciate that a lot. Yeah,
if anybody has any challenges they want to share that, are okay, so feel free to do that, or any questions about some of the VUCA part of it. Okay, how do we, you see that, Lorraine?
Yeah, how do we convince higher ups of the need for continuing education? Oh, I know, it's so important. I think the hardest thing to do, we geared this toward leaders, and the hardest thing is to do when you have, superiors to report to is managing up. I worked for an organization once that the CEO always said, well, just manage up. And I'd be like, yeah, but my hands are tied. I'm not in the position to tell my boss what to do. That comes down to suggesting and sometimes making the idea the other person's.
Yes.
And that could be, in the case of the need for continuing education, that could be as simple as finding out what their trigger points are, the leader is, okay? So if it's, let's say the leader is very competitive, you know, our competitors really upskill their staff a lot. I'm hearing some buzz on the street. I'm not suggesting that you lie. You know, I'm saying this could be a way if it's all true.
Right, right.
That would get that leader's juices
Get
going.
their ear, right? Get their ear.
Oh, wait, they're getting ahead because they're upskilling. Well, maybe we need to do that. Well, funny you should say. I did a little research and bloom. You know, always consider the person. You know, and what is their personality like, and how can you leverage, you know, I don't want to say their vulnerability. It sounds like manipulation, but, you know, appeal to their nobler causes or any higher cause.
What's important to them?
Yeah, what's important to them? What's going to make that? And maybe you don't know. Maybe you just flat out ask, say, you know, how can I convince you, Laura, that educating our staff is really important? And
or asking the other way, what would you like to see our staff get better at?
There you go.
You know, what would you like to see? How can we improve what we currently have? And sharing that information. And maybe they'll give you a laundry list. And nowadays, I mean, we can take classes for free and do all kinds of things that we would never have had opportunity to have exposure to.
Right.
So now's the opportune time to ask for that and to talk about, you know, what kind of upskilling does the team need? What kind of upskilling would you like to see in me personally? You know, when you have your one-on-ones, ask for opportunities to talk to your bosses and your leaders that are there to talk about your own professional development and what they would like to see in your growth. And then, you know, have your shared experiences and you can share what you would want to see. I think it's opening up the communication both ways helps each other understand each other. Helps them.
Yeah, and I think too, when you're trying to persuade somebody, always show them what the benefit is. You know, sometimes you have to show them what the negative is too. You know, like, the downside could be this, but the benefit so outweighs the downside.
Right.
I think, you know, in that particular instance, a lot of times leaders are, you know, reluctant to spend money. You know, they have so many other things they have to consider, and sure, that's understandable. So you have to show them the benefit and the long-term advantage.
That answer your question, Paul? Yep.
Somebody have a question?
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry. I don't see my chat button.
Okay.
I don't know how to use that. But I do have a question. I wanted to ask about vulnerability. Do y'all both think as leaders, putting your vulnerability out there, do you think it's something that you should acknowledge to people, or do it make it seem like you're down on yourself? Sometimes you could say your weaknesses to people. You know, not that you're just focusing on that, but do you think that by acknowledging it and saying it, that it kind of makes you look weak as a leader?
I think that's the presumption. Yeah, that's the perception. But it's all in the messaging, right? You know, somebody once said about a puppy or a dog, you know, it's not what you say to the dog, it's how you say it. You know, oh, your hair is so matted and looks so bad today. You know, you can say that to the dog, but if you say it like that, it sounds so nice. I think as a leader, what you want to do is, the whole purpose of being vulnerable is to be human and to be authentic. It only makes you look weak if you're completely apologetic and you look, you know, fearful. So as a leader, what you know, think of the best leaders. A very classic line is, I don't know everything, but I know enough to get people around me who do. That's showing vulnerability, but it's showing it in a confident manner. And I think that, you know, as if you're in an organization with a leader like that, as opposed to a leader that says, I'm the boss and I know everything, you're more inspired by the first than the latter. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Okay,
If you watch Brene Brown's video, I think you'll really find that helpful, because
it's great.
She explains that whole vulnerability. And
I like her.
We're not talking about constant self-deprecation by any means. We're talking about, hey, I'm the leader, I run the organization, but I know I'm not the end all. I know that I couldn't have this organization if it weren't for my people. That's vulnerability, but it's humility, it's kind, it's understanding, and it shows courage.
Yeah. And being genuine, I think Lisa said in the chat, being genuine is really important. You know, not having false pretenses and being yourself.
Yeah, Lisa also said now's the best time for development with captive audiences. Isn't
right.
True? Yeah.
Can learn a lot.
Yeah. All right, we have a little bit of time for another question or two.
hold on.
A question I'm often asked is, you know, when you talk about being vulnerable and that whole servant leadership style, it sounds so counterintuitive, but it really isn't. You think of some of the best leaders who really do lead by putting their people first. An example that I was telling Laura before we started was I ran into a friend, an old neighborhood friend over the weekend, who's been laid off. She has a very high up position in the casinos. And we got talking, and she was telling me she'd been in the industry for years. And she said that she had a boss who once spent more time when he was in town with the people at the ground level on the floor of the casinos than he did with his VPs. And she was VP at the time, VP of sales. So she had a major job. She said it was so hard to get a meeting with him because he was so, he was, you know, he cared about everybody, but he cared so much about the people at the ground level and really getting information from them to make the place better. What are the customers saying? What, you know, I think that that's a servant leadership style. You know, do you have what you need? You know, are the hours okay? Just things like that. She said she learned a lot from that and really, really respects him to this day. Hasn't worked for him for years. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. What are some of the best books that you have read about this? Oh, Laura.
Yeah, and the book that you read. Yeah, and the book that you mentioned. What was the name? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mentioned Simon Sinek. Start with Why.
Yeah.
Earlier, you know, when we talk about trying to discover our own why, that's one book I like. Another I like, it's, you know, Zig Ziglar was a motivational speaker and a sales guru, mm-hmm. but he has several books out that I think are so very helpful. Laura, you mentioned a book earlier. If you could mention
Mark Devine's book, The Way of the Seal. Yeah, that's a great book. And then there's another really great book I love. It's called The Platinum Rule. And that's about, you know, everybody knows the golden rule, do unto others as you want to be done unto. But the platinum rule is do unto others as they want to be done unto. So that's a really great book. I forget the author, but it's called The Platinum Rule. So it's one of the books that I kind of live by.
Does anybody else have a book on leadership that they'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Oh, there's one, Sienna said, Multipliers versus Diminishers. That's a great book.
Oh,
I've read that one. Mm-hmm.
All right. I never read that.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Anything by Harvey Mackay?
Oh, he's a great guy. I love Harvey Mackay. I have the one that says swim with the sharks without being eaten alive. Harvey Mackay, back from my old sales days. He's great.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
God, is there any other ones?
No, I don't see anything else right now. There's so many good books out there.
Does anybody want to share while we're on this call? Oh, wait, here's the newest one. Oh, he said his newest one is you haven't hit
your peak yet.
Your peak yet. Oh, I will have to pick that up. Thank you. My new summer reading. Thank you. I
like that because I you know, as we age, that's one of the big questions in our head. Well, mine anyway. It's a little bit nerve-wracking.
We'll save the chat and we can share those books. I think we can save the chat and share those books. So we can do that. I think that would be great to do. Great.
Good.
And if anybody wants to share anything else, that would be great. Or if anybody has a struggle or anything that they want to share, or, you know, or any, I have something that I've been looking at daily that one of our employees had mentioned. It's called the Good News Network. You know, you were talking about all the things and information that's coming at you, some good, some not so good. So I kind of try to get a daily feed of what's happening that's positive. Mm-hmm.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, that we will follow up with a survey, and we really appreciate you participating in that. I also mentioned that this is being recorded and it'll be posted on YouTube, so we can share in the comments on that forever, right? It'll be there forever.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, we know your time's important, and wanted to thank you very much for participating, and we'll definitely share the books and the recommendations. So thank you, everyone, and be courageous. Be a great leader. Have a good day.
Take care.